What if I told you when a woman wants to come back, she doesn't always say it directly? No long apology, no bold confession, just subtle, carefully placed signals like breadcrumbs scattered along your path. Hoping you'll follow without her having to ask, she won't say, "I miss you." Instead, she'll like an old photo view. Every story bring up an inside joke, appear in places she never used to go just to be seen. Not to speak, but here's the truth. She's not just reaching out to you. She's reaching back to a version of you that once needed her. And the moment you've evolved beyond that man, the moment you've become grounded, still, and whole on your own, you'll see these signs not as invitations, but as tests. Tests of your growth, tests of your emotional control, tests of whether you're truly the man who no longer chases clarity in someone else, but creates it in himself in today's video. We're going to break down the 11 subtle ways she may be trying to reconnect with you, and more importantly, how a man of peace, purpose, and presence responds. Let's begin. Number 1. The sudden. How have you been? Message you been. Message it might seem casual, but timing says everything. She's not just checking in. She's testing the waters to see if your door is still open after all the silence. After the distance, she chose that message doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from a moment. A moment when curiosity, regret, or even loneliness begins to whisper in her ear. Maybe the guy she chose didn't turn out the way she expected. Maybe she scrolled through your photos. Maybe she saw you glowing in your peace, not chasing anyone. Just being that "how have you been" is a soft knock. It's subtle, non-threatening. A low-risk question wrapped in casual tones, but don't get it twisted. There's always intent. She wants to know where you emotionally stand. Are you still waiting, still hoping, or have you, like a river, kept flowing forward without her? Here's where the modern Stoic shows up. Not in his silence alone, but in his response to that silence being interrupted. He doesn't act out of nostalgia. He doesn't rush to reply, relive the past, or prove anything. He observes, he asks himself, what do I truly want? Now, does this align with the man I've become? The Stoic reminds us, don't be overheard complaining, not even to yourself. So he doesn't complain about her timing. He doesn't overanalyze. He simply recognizes, not all messages deserve answers, and not all reappearances deserve re-entry. Maybe once a message like that would have lit up your whole day. You would have stared at the screen, heart racing, wondering what it meant. But now you read it with calm eyes. No anxiety, no fantasy, just awareness. That's growth, because this isn't about revenge. It's about clarity. You're no longer the man who needed closure, validation, or breadcrumbs. You're the man who's learned that emotional discipline means choosing peace over curiosity. That message might have come from her, but how you respond, that's where your power lies. And if you choose silence, let it be from strength, not spite. If you choose to engage, do it with purpose, not hope. Because the grounded man doesn't act to be remembered. He acts to remain aligned with himself. Before we move on to the next subtle signal, I want you to take a second and reflect. Have you ever received a message like that and felt the urge to respond instantly just to feel connected again? You're not alone. That moment that "how have you been" can stir up all kinds of feelings, but now you see it for what it is. Not a reunion, but a test, and how you handle it reveals everything about the man you've become. I'd love to hear your take on this. Have you been through a moment like that? What did you do? Drop your thoughts below. Or if you want to keep it simple, just comment. Stillness over impulse. That one line says it all. Let's keep growing now. Let's move to the next sign. Number 2. Random likes from the past. She scrolls through your old posts and starts liking photos or stories that are months or even years old. It's not nostalgia. It's a signal, but not the kind that demands a reaction. It's subtle, almost calculated. She's tapping into your memory, reminding you she still exists without having to say a word. Maybe it's a beach photo from a trip you took when things were good. Maybe it's a quote you posted during your healing phase. She's not just reminiscing, she's checking if the door she once closed is still slightly ajar. Here's where the untrained mind might spiral. What does this mean? Is she thinking about me again? Should I like something back? But you're not just any man you've evolved. The Stoic doesn't chase meaning in breadcrumbs he observes without attachment. He understands that not every action deserves interpretation, and not every flicker of interest should reignite the flame. Think about it like this. If you're walking through a quiet forest and a branch snaps behind you, you notice it, but you don't abandon your path to investigate every sound. That's the difference. She's making noise in your past, hoping it echoes into your present. But you don't need to respond to echoes. You've built a life that moves forward, not one that circles back every time a ghost taps on the glass. So the next time you see one of those random likes pop up, take a breath. Recognize it for what it is, a ping from the past trying to stir your curiosity, but let it pass through you. Let it land and go nowhere, because when you no longer need validation from someone who once left their attempts to reconnect lose their power. And that, my friend, is how you maintain your peace. You don't ignore the sign, you simply choose not to follow it. Number 3, her name suddenly pops up in your stories. Her name suddenly pops up in your stories. She views your stories consistently, maybe even replies with a laughing emoji. It's not direct, but it's not accidental either. She's there quietly, subtly lingering at the edge of your digital world. You're not speaking, you're not reaching out, but somehow she keeps showing up. A name that once lived in your heart now lives in the seen by list, and that alone stirs something. This isn't just curiosity, it's calculated. It's the new version of a wave from across the room. No words, just presence, a signal that says, I still notice you. Maybe even, I wonder if you still notice me. And in today's world, that's the digital equivalent of knocking gently just to see if the door opens. But here's where you stay grounded. The Stoic doesn't interpret every flicker of attention as an invitation. Just because she's watching doesn't mean you have to perform. Maybe she misses you. Maybe she's bored. Maybe she's wondering if you've moved on, or if she still has access. Whatever the reason, it's not your job to chase clarity. Think about it like this. Imagine you're standing on solid ground. She walks by and glances your way. Do you start dancing to get her attention, or do you remain still, anchored in your own peace? Unmoved by the noise, that's the strength we're talking about. You can acknowledge the moment without being pulled into it. You don't need to post more, do more, or give her a reaction sometimes. Silence is louder than any reply, and when you don't flinch, don't shift, don't chase. That's when the weight of her presence returns to her, so the next time her name pops up in your stories, don't overthink it. Observe it like a Stoic would a passing cloud, neither good nor bad, just something that exists. And then passes. Your story isn't defined by who watches, it's defined by who you are without needing to be watched. Number 4, she brings up inside. She brings up inside jokes. Jokes out of nowhere. She references an old memory. Only the two of you would understand. This is her way of saying, I still remember us. It might come disguised in a playful tone. Maybe she sends a message like, remember that awful pizza place you swore was amazing? Or comments, just saw someone with your famous dance moves. These aren't random. They're intentional triggers, emotional hooks meant to pull you back into a shared bubble only the two of you ever lived in. What's fascinating here is the subtlety. She's not outright confessing she misses you, but she's tapping into the emotional shorthand that used to make you both laugh, smile, feel close. It's a soft probe into the past, not to rewind time, but to test if that spark still exists. But here's where your strength gets tested. A man anchored in Stoicism doesn't get lost chasing the warmth of old jokes. He may smile, he may feel a flicker of nostalgia, but he doesn't drift. The past is a place for reflection, not residence. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "The present moment is all we ever have." And that's the key. Just because she revisits those playful moments doesn't mean you have to follow her back into them emotionally. You acknowledge the memory, but you stay grounded in your present path, focused, calm, and undistracted by echoes of what once felt familiar. So if she's bringing up inside jokes, now ask yourself, is she reconnecting or just reminiscing? Either way, you don't need to rush to decode her motives. Observe, let her words speak for themselves, let time reveal what intentions they carry, and above all, keep your peace intact. That's the real punchline. Let's take a moment to pause here, because this little joke, this casual memory she tossed your way is more than just a laugh. It's a test of emotional presence, a moment that invites you to reflect. Are you still living in that version of the past, or have you truly moved forward? The beauty of Stoicism is that it teaches us not to deny emotion, but to master it, to enjoy the memory without becoming a prisoner of it. So I want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had someone bring up an inside joke out of the blue? What did it make you feel? Drop a comment below. And let's talk about it, or just write, "I choose presence over the past." I'll be, she sends you accidental messages, reading number 5. She sends you accidental messages, a random message that wasn't meant for you. Don't be fooled. It's her way of restarting dialogue without admitting she wanted to. Maybe it's a blurry photo, a song link, or a cryptic "oops, wrong person." Text one that somehow still holds emotional weight. You pause, you read it twice, and somewhere in the back of your mind a thought flickers. This wasn't random. These kinds of messages are calculated slips. They allow her to test the waters without vulnerability. It's like knocking on your door, but pretending she meant to knock on someone else's. If you respond eagerly, she gets what she wanted. Confirmation that you're still emotionally accessible. If you stay silent, it unsettles her because now she's unsure if the hook landed. That uncertainty, that's where your power lies. See, a man grounded in Stoicism doesn't get caught up in hidden meanings or emotional traps disguised as accidents. He understands the difference between intention and impulse. As Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. You don't owe your energy to games. You don't need to decode every message like a hidden puzzle. Sometimes, the best answer is no answer at all. Let her wonder why you didn't bite. Let her feel the silence she once thought she controlled, because when you no longer respond from a place of longing, but from a place of calm discernment, she starts to realize that the version of you who once reacted quickly is no longer there. That's not indifference, that's evolution. Number 6, mutual friends start mentioning her people around you. Suddenly bring her, mutual friends start mentioning her up more often. She might be orchestrating this through others. Subtle influence, not direct contact. It's not random. When you keep hearing her name from the same circles from people who never used to bring her up, there's usually more beneath the surface. Maybe it's a casual, "Hey, I ran into her the other day. She asked how you were." Or maybe it's, "She's been talking about how things used to be. Said she hopes you're doing well on the surface." It's innocent, but underneath, it's calculated. She's testing the waters without stepping in them herself. This is one of the softer plays women sometimes use when direct communication feels too vulnerable. Instead of texting you, she lets the echo of her presence travel through shared voices. People she knows you'll listen to, even just out of curiosity. But here's the key. Don't take the bait. A man grounded in clarity doesn't chase the source of whispers. He doesn't need to know why she's suddenly reappearing through conversations he observes. Registers it and lets it pass like clouds across his inner stillness. Stoic insight. The Stoic isn't swayed by second-hand whispers. He holds his own truth without leaning on external voices, because when you're anchored in your own path, it doesn't matter who brings her name up or why your peace is not up for negotiation. Number 7, she reappears. She reappears where you frequent the gym, the cafe, that event you posted about. Suddenly, she's there. Coincidence rarely when someone resurfaces in your world like this. It's often not by accident. Maybe she walks into the same coffee shop where you've been a regular, lately claiming she just discovered it, or she signs up for the same yoga class you mentioned once. In passing, the difference between chance and choice. And this feels more like the latter. It's a silent attempt to be noticed without having to say a word. Her presence becomes her message. You see, when a woman starts showing up in your spaces, it's her way of bridging the gap without openly admitting she misses you. It allows her to observe your energy, gauge your reaction, maybe even rekindle something without risking vulnerability. She doesn't have to say, "I miss you." She just has to appear. That's the move, but here's where your mindset matters. Stoic insight. You don't question fate. You simply remain composed in its presence. A man grounded in self-awareness doesn't overanalyze appearances. He doesn't flinch or fantasize. He acknowledges what is not, what might be. You're not here to perform, react, or chase ghosts. You're here because it's your life, and if she happens to pass through it again, so be it. You don't feed the fantasy, you let reality speak. If she's truly seeking reconnection, it'll be clear. But if it's just about being seen, about stirring something in you for validation, you stay still. You keep doing you with calmness, clarity, and that quiet power that comes from knowing your worth isn't tied to who reappears, but to how you carry yourself when they do. And this is where your reflection becomes just as important as your reaction. Ask yourself, does her presence feel genuine, or is it just strategic? Is she trying to reconnect, or simply remind you she still exists in your world? These questions aren't meant to create paranoia, but to sharpen your awareness, because not every return is rooted in love. Sometimes it's rooted in ego. So before we move on, take a second to think. About this, have you ever had someone quietly re-enter your life like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments, or just leave this sentence below if it hit home. Her presence doesn't move me. My piece does. Number 8, she asks about your growth. She wants to know what you've been up to. Not just casually, but with genuine curiosity. It's her way of gauging if she still fits into your evolving life. Maybe it comes in the form of a late-night message. You've been quiet lately, what's new with you? Or she sees a photo of you at a seminar in the gym or speaking confidently in a new space. And suddenly, she's intrigued, not just by the image, but by the man you're becoming in it. And make no mistake, this isn't just small talk when a woman who once had access to you starts asking about your growth. It's often because something has shifted. She senses it. You're no longer orbiting her world like you used to. Your attention, your energy, your focus, it's turned inward now. And that quiet evolution, it speaks louder than any words you could ever send. She might ask, "Are you still working on that project?" Or, "You look different, what changed?" But behind the questions is something deeper she's trying to understand. If the version of you she knew is still within reach, or if she's already losing touch with a man who no longer waits for her to notice him. And here's where the Stoic principle applies. The disciplined man grows for himself, not for applause, not for validation, and certainly not for a second chance with someone who only now realizes his value. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." And you've been doing just that quietly, consistently, without the need for updates or recognition. So when she asks about your growth, answer, if you choose, but don't shift your path for her reaction. Your journey isn't a performance. It's a process. A Stoic man understands that his progress is not a tool to win her back. It's a reflection of the man he decided to become after letting go. If she sees it and regrets letting go, that's her reflection to wrestle with you. On the other hand, just keep walking. Let your life speak. Let your silence teach. Let your growth stand as the only answer she needs. Number 9, she brings up regret without. She brings up regret without saying sorry. She talks about mistakes or things she would have done differently. Hoping you'll connect the dots, maybe it slips into the conversation casually. I didn't know how to handle things back then, or I was going through a lot and I didn't see it clearly. She's not apologizing outright. She's leaving a trail of hints, hoping you'll interpret her reflection as a quiet admission of guilt without her having to speak the full truth. But here's the thing. You've changed. You're no longer the man who jumps at breadcrumbs. You hear her words, but you don't rush to soothe or rescue her from the discomfort of accountability. You don't interrupt her process with a quick, "it's okay." Because maybe it's not. Maybe what she did really altered the course of things. And now you're no longer seeking closure. You've built peace in the absence of it. She may be hoping that by showing a glimpse of regret, you'll lower your guard, that you'll fill in the emotional blanks for her. But you've learned through pain, through reflection, through growth, that accountability is shown through effort, not implication, through real action. Not carefully phrased throwbacks. You don't demand an apology, because a Stoic doesn't need validation to move forward. But you also don't ignore what your intuition is. Whispering, regret without responsibility is strategy, not sincerity. Stoic insight. A Stoic accepts words but weighs them against consistent action. Regret without change is just noise. You now are a man who doesn't listen with hope. He listens with clarity. You can appreciate the honesty without inviting old patterns back into your life. If you've ever heard these vague confessions dressed as reflection, ask yourself, has anything really changed? Or is she just haunted by the silence you left behind? Number 10. She gets emotional at. She gets emotional at the right time. Tears, vulnerability, or sharing deep thoughts during a moment of connection. It's her soft attempt to reopen your heart without demanding it, and make no mistake, timing matters. Maybe it's during a quiet conversation. Maybe after you've had a long stretch of silence. Or maybe it's when she senses that you're finally at peace without her. Suddenly, she reveals a part of herself she kept hidden before she opens up about fears, regrets, or how much she misses the way things used to be. And in that moment, it feels real. It might even feel healing. But here's the truth. Emotions, even when they're genuine, can still serve a purpose. They can pull on the strings of your empathy. They can spark that old protective instinct in you. The one that used to make you rush in, reassure her, and forget the pain you carried. It's a powerful move, whether it's conscious or not. Her emotional timing often aligns with when she feels her grip on you slipping. When logic doesn't work, vulnerability steps in. This is where the Stoic mindset comes in. Not to harden your heart, but to clarify your perspective. You see, a man who practices emotional discipline doesn't ignore another person's pain, but he doesn't let it override his own growth either. So when she cries, when she reminisces, when she paints pictures of what could have been, the Stoic man hears her, but he also hears himself. He remembers what it took to rebuild his peace. He doesn't let a single tear rewrite the chapters he closed for a reason. This isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. Compassion doesn't mean surrender. You can acknowledge her emotion without rushing to fix it. You can feel her words without letting them detour your direction. If she's sincere, her actions will echo her emotions long after the tears dry. And if they don't, then you've done what a man of inner calm must do. Respond with empathy, decide with strength, and keep walking with purpose. So when she gets emotional at the right time, ask yourself, is it emotion or strategy? And more importantly, are you ready to respond like the man you've become? Not the one who used to break at the sound of her voice, now that we've unpacked the power behind her emotional timing? Take a moment to reflect. How many times have feelings clouded your judgment before it's not about denying emotion? It's about honouring your growth without being pulled back into patterns that once drained you. The ability to stay centred when emotion enters the room is what separates a man who reacts from a man who leads. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever felt like her vulnerability showed up right when you were finally moving on? Or just drop this in the comments section. Compassion doesn't mean surrender. I'd love to hear how you see it. Number 11. She tests the waters with silence too. She tests the waters with silence too. Just like you used silence to regain power. Now she mirrors it. She disappears briefly, hoping you'll break the distance. She stops replying to stories, stops liking your posts, maybe even goes off the radar for a few days. It's not coincidence. It's strategy. Her silence isn't always about moving on. Sometimes it's bait. She wants to see if the absence still stings you, like it used to. If you'll reach out first, if you'll prove she still matters, even in the quiet and the truth. It's tempting, especially when the silence lingers just long enough to make you wonder, is she done for good? Should I say something that pours? It's her test, a subtle probe into whether the power you reclaimed can still be shaken. But this is where your discipline is tested too, because silence isn't just a tactic for you, it became your lifestyle. A Stoic doesn't play emotional ping-pong. He doesn't match silence for attention. He remains rooted in purpose. Not performance, you've evolved beyond needing to react. You don't chase echoes. You let the silence stretch. Not as a punishment, but as protection, as clarity. She might be waiting to see if you flinch, but you've learned that real peace isn't disturbed by someone else's pause. It's built on something far deeper. Inner alignment, calm and emotional sovereignty. So when she tests the waters with her own silence, don't panic, don't jump. Let her wonder. Let her sit with the same stillness you once endured, because the man who once crumbled in the quiet is no longer here. He's been replaced by someone who listens more to his own rhythm than to her patterns. And that is power. Glad you're feeling it. Let's close this out with something even stronger. Something that stays with the viewer long after the screen fades to black, because here's the real takeaway. It's not about her signs. It's not even about what she wants. It's about you finally realizing you don't need to follow anyone back into the past to validate who you are. Conclusion now. She might test the waters. She might reappear with nostalgia, silence, or subtle glances, but you're no longer the man who jumps at shadows. You're the man who chooses stillness over reaction, clarity over confusion, peace over patterns that once drained you, and that, my friend, is where your power lives. So let her wonder. Let her second guess it. Let her feel the distance you once felt, because now you're not waiting, you're becoming. If this video hit home, don't just scroll away, like it, share it, and let me know in the comments. What part made you pause and think, or just drop the words, I don't chase, I choose. And if you're ready to keep sharpening that mindset, tap one of the videos on the screen. Dive deeper. Keep walking this path of strength, presence, and purpose, because remember, you're not just letting her go. You're rising into who you were meant to be. Until next time, walk with calm, move with intent, and never forget your silence speaks volumes.